How fickle my heart and how woozy my eyes. I struggle to find any truth in your lies. Now my heart stumbles on things I don't know. My weakness I feel I must finally show. Ah, 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 ah. Awake my soul. Awake my soul. In these bodies we will live, in these bodies we will die. Will you invest your love? You invest your life. In these bodies we will live, in these bodies we will die. Will you invest your love? You invest your life. Awake my soul. Awake my soul. Awake my soul. You were made to meet your maker. You were made to meet your maker.
Good morning, Nexus, and welcome to our 10th anniversary as a church. I am standing here in the Walper Hotel's Crystal Ballroom, and I can't even tell you, coming in here, it's given me all sorts of feelings and memories. This is where it all began 10 years ago, and of course, over the years, we've grown, moved across the street. There's more of us. There's a whole lot more children than we started with, but just being in this room is flooding me with memories. I'm remembering right now us as a community watching Canada win the Olympic gold medal in men's hockey when when was that? 2016, something like that. Who knows? 12, who knows? But I'm just remembering us packed in here and watching the game together as a community. And so I thought I'd come back here to start our morning right where it all began 10 years ago. And there's not a whole lot to celebrate in the world these days, but when we do have things to celebrate, especially now, we need to seize them. And so this morning, we pause to give thanks, to celebrate 10 years together as a community, 10 years of God, I believe, His Spirit walking with us on this path, on this journey. And so this morning, we've got a number of people lined up who are just going to share stories and reflections from our time together over the past 10 years. I can't wait to see it. So without further ado, here we go. Nexus at 10, some reflections and stories for you.
I found Nexus at a time in life when I didn't believe there would be a faith community out there that would not only accept my questions, but encourage them. Nexus is a place that makes me want to continue the journey and dig into my spiritual life. I have connected with people who are kindred spirits and with whom I can connect with on a deep level. I love that I can call or text Brad on any given day to chat about the ideas he has shared or the things that I'm learning about. Nexus has become a big reason why I feel I need to keep roots here in Kitchener. I don't think I will ever encounter a faith community like Nexus that I will feel so at home in. I feel really lucky to have this community, and hope that we have many more decades together.
In short, my experience at Nexus has been my most positive experience with church and my long experience of attending church. All the churches I've attended have played an important part in prodding me to move ahead. I feel like Nexus was, in some way, the conclusion of a long spiritual journey that I assume is not over, in trying to figure out how I would live out my faith. For me, it actually began the first time I heard Brad speak at his previous church. For some reason, I knew he would be really good and would find his way to a church that he could lead using his unique style. And in fact, that's what happened. His teaching continues to be refreshing, non-judgmental, transparent, honest, and he treats those to whom he speaks as adults. Rather than dictating to us how we should live and believe, he challenges us to think and grow, trusting that the Spirit is actually working in our midst. It seems so clear that Brad is on a journey with all of us. Yes, he leads, but he also joins us in the many struggles that make up the Christian journey. I know for many that Nexus is, in a sense, their last chance for church to work. This type of group is exactly the people Brad speaks to, and that would include me. Jane and I had almost given up on church until Nexus came along. To me, this is an exciting and challenging group to be involved with. Questioning and doubting, stretching our present understanding of our faith, are a necessary part of any spiritual journey, and Brad encourages that by example. For much of my church life, unfortunately, I have not felt comfortable inviting others to church with me. No more. Nexus is so open to wherever people are in their journey, and that is as it should be, in my mind. It's been my privilege to meet so many interesting people and share a coffee with them as they share their journey and how Nexus seems to have been a needed part. Also, taking part in boomerang groups, a name for which Brad is responsible, where in a more intimate setting we can learn, share, and grow together has been a high point for me. I have always been amazed by the music. Jared, Kevin, Dave as leaders, and so many other talented musicians, and the ability of our group to write and share, a list too long to mention. I feel God has blessed both me and Nexus, and I am so thankful to be part of this local church. I look to the future with optimism and anticipation for how Nexus will continue to change, grow, and influence many in their spiritual journey.
Hi Nexus, my name is Jesselyn, and I have been invited here today to share a reflection with you on my experience at Nexus in celebration of our 10-year anniversary that we're celebrating today. So I want to share some thoughts with you that have come to mind in the last week as I've been reflecting on how Nexus has shaped me and what I'm grateful for here at Nexus. So I'll start off with sharing how I got introduced to Nexus, and then I want to just organically share some thoughts with you. So I began attending Nexus back in 2015, and this was after the classic church shopping that a lot of young adults experience as they move to a new city. And for me, it was the case of moving here for university and trying to find that church. So I was trying to find that church that checked off all the boxes. And after a year and a half of searching, I had this unsettledness in my search, and it meant hopping from one to the next, settling in for a little bit, and then feeling uneasy and wanting to look elsewhere. Then I was introduced to Nexus by my cousin, and I was introduced to Nexus with the idea that it was a different church, but very intentional about how they did different. And one of the examples that was used, I'm sure that we all have heard as something that Nexus does different, was the alternative music. This was both intriguing and refreshing to me, yet also somewhat threatening to my more traditional idea of church. But it was here at Nexus that I was first introduced to the idea of mystery in our faith and the beauty in the curiosity, all the while being surrounded and supported by such a compassionate community of people that have now become family. And this is the kind of experience that gave me a sense of ease and a sense of welcoming, and I truly felt invited into a community that was seeking depth and growth in their spiritual journey. And here I am about 5 years later, still here and throwing the checklist out the window. So I want to share a couple things with you on what I have appreciated about Nexus in those previous 5 years and how Nexus has shaped me. So first off, one of the things that stands out to me about Nexus is this idea of invitation, trust, and vulnerability. Those are some of the core pillars to Nexus and what the community is centered around. And this is something that I personally have appreciated being invited into, and I've seen it through and through in the Nexus community. Whether this be through Brad sharing his own personal and very raw experiences with such authenticity, or whether it be the openness around a table of strangers at a guess who's coming to dinner night, which then led to relationships building over a coffee or a beer, and the continued honesty that was encountered in those experiences with others. So on that idea, stepping into Nexus also felt like a stepping away from my preconceived idea of what church was, my Sunday morning calendar stamp. Nexus began to feel like home. And it felt like home because I felt both nurtured, but also challenged. And this became a space to feel where I felt welcomed to grow in ways that I had before feared. The doubts and the questions were approached with curiosity rather than fear, as well as compassion rather than judgment. And exploring my spirituality became something I was not anymore fearful of, but rather excited about, because I was finding comfort in this unknown and the journey of doing it alongside others. At Nexus, I embraced this opportunity to further connect with people over these things that I didn't know or didn't understand, and later found out that other people were in this same boat, but still searching for this depth. And this came with the security of knowing that the community around me was compassionate and ready to walk on a path with me, collectively engaging in both trust and vulnerability. So coming back to those pillars of being invited in, having this foundation of trust, and then this expectation of vulnerability with one another. In this, I was then eager to extend the invitation to friends and family. And this is something I'm so grateful for, where Nexus has become a place where loved ones of mine, both new and old friends, and also family, my parents have now come to join me here at Nexus. It's been a space where they have felt welcomed in, but also they've been intrigued by the authenticity and the freedom and curiosity. Reflecting a bit further on this idea of home, another primal idea that comes to mind about what Nexus is to me and how it's home to me is this idea of connectedness. So in this invitation of trust and vulnerability that I've said time and time again in this reflection, we're drawn in to connect with others through that. So this home offered me and others a sense of reconnection with self, reconnection with others, and reconnection with our spiritual journey. And this for me meant taking my faith to a space that felt safe and a space that felt contemplative rather than fear and judgment driven, and a space where vulnerability and trust gave me comfort in the unknowing and comfort in the mystery. And I became more and more aware of where the divine was in different parts of my life, rather than just confined to this Sunday checklist church service. And finally, I'll just close with this piece. I am grateful for Nexus and have been shaped by this element of connectedness on various levels. I've felt in my spiritual journey and with the guidance of the leadership here and the friendships here and the embrace from community and communion with one another, that I've been able to identify a more true sense of self. And I want to share with you a Richard Rohr piece from a devotional that continually reminds me of Nexus and my family here, and what we've cultivated here as a community. So this piece is from Richard Rohr. The goal of the spiritual journey is to discover and move toward connectedness on ever new levels. We may begin by making little connections with other people, with nature and animals, and then grow into deeper connectedness with people. Finally, we can experience full connectedness as union with God. Remember, how you do anything is how you do everything. Without connectedness and communion, we don't exist fully as our truest selves. Becoming who we really are is a matter of learning how to become more and more deeply connected. And this is something I feel I have experienced here at Nexus, is deeper connection and communion with one another here, and therefore deeper connection with a more true sense of myself. And that is such a beautiful experience of community and church to me. And I want to thank Nexus and everyone here and the leadership for cultivating and nurturing and fostering that space. So thank you, Nexus. I hope that reflection was okay to follow along with, and I am just excited to continue to connect with others here. And I just invite you, wherever you're sitting today, whether it be watching the YouTube from your couch or joining us at the farm today, that you guys just have a great time celebrating Nexus and reflecting on what it means to you as well. So thank you, and I hope to see you all soon.
10 years ago, Melissa and I were becoming more sure we were done with church, but we were willing to give it one more try at the invitation of Brad and Kristen. Who would have thought that 10 years later we'd still be here? So it's fitting and an honor to speak about Nexus, which has become such an integral part of our lives. Nexus has introduced us to so many great people, as all churches do. But Nexus has done this in such creative ways and through unique events, from wine tours to Chipsmas and years of pub theology. Even through more churchy events like potlucks, soup Sundays, and Guess Who's Coming to Dinner, they proved to be so enjoyable because of the people and the stories that were drawn to Nexus. I never thought music would be something that would jump out to me as significant about Nexus, as someone who has no interest in singing. But I've always appreciated music at Nexus under Jared, Kevin, and now Dave. It featured such talented musicians displaying a unique and non-traditional approach to music in church. They regularly featured my favorite, U2, and introduced me to Mumford & Sons. They debuted with Awake My Soul, which they followed another week, a couple of weeks later, with I Will Wait, only to be scolded by the Walper Hotel to keep it down. Good thing we were at the Conrad Center when the band played a Black Sabbath song and later sabotaged by the Beastie Boys. Dave and the band continued to do a fantastic job introducing new music while following the Nexus mantra of featuring music by those running to God and those running from God, music so often excluded at many churches. Nexus also pushed me to try leading a history walk one summer. To my delight and surprise, this became an annual occurrence, which was supported well by the Nexus community. Still leading many history walks, I have Nexus to thank for this creative outlet. Finally, I've always enjoyed the many ways Nexus, with Brad's lead, teaches and challenges us all while allowing freedom for a wide range of belief and doubt. Many churches pay lip service to this idea, but Nexus truly finds a way to introduce and celebrate faith while creating a welcoming space for those who are uncertain in theirs. I grew up in a church system where the norm saw pastors leave about every 5 or 6 years, half that for youth pastors. Brad and Kristen, no one can doubt your commitment to the Nexus community, clearly shown through your longevity, the years invested while at Grandview to create Nexus, and the decade you've given us all since. Thank you for the many ways you've enriched our lives over the last 10 years, and I'm honored to still be here to start Nexus's next decade with you.
While thinking of what to write for the 10-year anniversary of Nexus, I ran the idea of just doing a top 10 list by Brad. He suggested that would be okay, if a little boring. Why not share something from the heart, he suggested, something about what Nexus has meant to me and its significance in my life. He's usually right about these things, and I always give the advice my full attention and thought. So without further ado, my Nexus top 10 list. Funny, interesting moments from my last 10 years of Nexus, as chosen by me in no particular order. Number 1. Seems like just yesterday, Brad was telling us an embarrassing anecdote about the Watson family. Wait, that was yesterday. For the past 10 years, we've managed to hear just about every intimate detail about the Watson clan, like the time Brad chose to eat lasagna instead of visiting Kristen in the hospital, or his recent unfortunate accident in the woods, only to be rescued by his family. Many of us might even feel like we are part of the Watson family at this point. Regardless, if you've attended Nexus for any period of time, you know there's very little you don't know about the Watson family. These funny anecdotes fit into a theme of some kind, usually, but I like that they serve to normalize the weird, strange, unusual habits and embarrassing moments we all have, public urination excluded. Number 2, remember that random room in the Walper Hotel that we once served as a nursery? It may have been a meeting room, but I'm pretty sure it was a storage closet. I can recall my short time volunteering, which consisted of putting down the foam floor and bin of toys and then praying fervently that no one cried for the next 45 minutes. My favorite pastime was trying to keep the toddlers from eating the many, many crumbs and debris left by hotel guests past. The nursery and kids program has certainly evolved over the years, but the 1 hour of solitude that it provides parents like me is certainly something we're very grateful for. Number 3, the first and only Nexus camping trip in Elora, which may or may not have received a citation for alcohol and noise violations. For more specific details on the matter, please speak to Bronson. Number 4, Brad's many hairstyles. Is it a high fade, a modern pomp, slick back? Regardless of the style, they all work. Brad's coif has evolved along with Nexus and changed with the times. Whichever Brad's looks you might prefer, one thing we can all agree on is the stress of leading us for the last 10 years has made him go gray prematurely. Adventurous themes. Number 5, Brad doesn't pull any punches. If you think he won't talk about it, he will. In fact, if you suggest he not speak on something, he'll probably talk about that too. What other church would spend a Sunday talking about porn, breaking down the stigmas of mental health, or making us reconsider our relationship with our bodies? Nexus always confronts the important issues that we share and takes an unflinching look at the topics and ideas that make us uncomfortable, but also challenge us to reconsider our own perspectives. Number 6, the Griffin's Summer Celebration. It's not summer until we've all had too much smoked brisket, cheese, wine, and chocolate-covered fruit. Sadly, we missed the last one, so I'm definitely going to eat twice as much next year. Number 7, the Nexus Community Garden. One of my favorite memories of Nexus. Where else would you see a group come together and spend all day digging in the dirt for a good cause? For those of you there, you know what it was about. Number 8, friends. Without a doubt, we've met some of our closest friends through Nexus. It's been an invaluable place for us to meet some really great people that obviously are a big part of our lives today. Number 9, the Ray of Hope dinner. A fun and practical way for us to serve others. I can recall making what must have been the largest batch of buttered chicken in North America with Jane and Murray one year, and I've become an expert at making copious amounts of Caesar salad. Every year, this has been a great way to get to know other Nexus attendees they might not otherwise see and serve others at the same time. And last but certainly not least, number 10. One final constant at Nexus has been Glenn Pascoe and his poetry. For the past 10 years, I have come to greatly look forward to whenever Glenn writes something for us. Sometimes irreverent, funny, but always memorable. Glenn seems to know how to seems to know how to share something that's important for all of us to hear. So, 10 years Glenn's been preparing things for us. I thought it might be nice if somebody wrote something for him. So, what I do now, I do as a fan and nothing else. His wry ruminations rumbling through the microphone circuitry, crackling along, electrodes expanding and contracting, amplifying the angst. On Sundays, I look forward to watching the football game, the violent clashing and brutality, a welcome respite from the work week, an escape from reality. But now I'm left contemplating how my preoccupation with work might be killing me, or thinking of my body as a weathered and dilapidated old house. Have someone sit down next to me? Don't like where this is going. Am I socially distancing? Or am I distanced socially? Now he's on about something else, but I can't make out where this one's going. Words zigzagging past me like cars, rush hour, whizzing by me, I can barely make them out. I'll just nod along like I understand. One more sermon to listen to, one more song to sing, one more metaphor to ponder, one more phone to ring. It's a strange feeling, listening to someone air your innermost thoughts. Like Will Ferrell in Stranger Than Fiction, having your life narrated accurately, but with a better vocabulary. 10 years of Glenn's poetry, summed up in a line, the clear expression of mixed feelings. 10 years of friends, 10 years of kids, 10 years of challenge, 10 years of wine, 10 years of embarrassing Watson stories, and possibly best of all, 10 years of Glenn's poetry, leaving us wanting for 10 more.
The first time I attended Nexus, I was 15 years old. I found a spot to sit and was handed one of those little plastic communion cups. If you were there that Sunday in the ballroom of the Wolper Hotel, you'll remember that Brad was making a point about Jesus breaking boundaries, and he asked us to spit in our tiny sacred shot glasses, wait a second for further instruction, and then drink it back down. I probably should have taken that as my first signal that I was in for a wild ride with Nexus. But honestly, I was too distracted by Spencer Thompson sitting next to me. He did not even hesitate. That loogie was gone right back down the gullet. Spit guzzling aside, I fell in love with Nexus instantly because I was not required to check my brain at the door. Brad's teachings integrated spheres of knowledge that I didn't know pastors were even allowed to think about, let alone use to inform scripture. Psychology, literary theory, and I think even one Sunday, thermodynamics. I had never seen a church leader who led from a position of curiosity and question and exploration, instead of certainty and answer and destination. This continues to be my favorite thing about Nexus. As Brad has said before, we're a laboratory of love. But make it a laboratory full of paint splatters, magic tricks, and David Bowie. Make it a lab where we collapse the construct of holy versus worldly into one sacred mess. Make it a lab where we don't leave our stories at home, our love stories, our comedies, our tragedies. Make it a lab where we hold these stories up with profound regard as we turn them into poetry, into paintings, into full-on theatrical productions featuring live band and dance troupe. Nexus is a laboratory, but also an art gallery, also a historical archive, also a lavish night at the theater, also a backyard barbecue, and sometimes a church, always a church. Because all of these things, curious questions, honest art, unfinished stories, are sacred. And whenever we come together to hold the mess of it all up to the light and call it heavenly, that's church. Nexus, it has been heaven knowing you. It's been heaven watching my family and friends get to know you. It's been heaven seeing the way you expand our definitions of what should count as church, what should count as sacred, and what should count, period. The moments of doubt and uncertainty about everything that is complicated, that counts here. But also the moments of conviction and confidence in the truth, capital T, that love is what is real, that counts too. And I know I count. My story counts. My own little contribution to the mess of it all counts. And I hope you know that about yourself too. Brad and Kristen and family, thank you for having the guts to do Nexus. I know this isn't all about me by a long shot, but personally speaking for a second, I waltzed into that spit in a cup Sunday just about ready to call it quits with the church. But here I am, 8 years later, still learning over and over and over again that all things can be made new.
Hey, Nexus. 9 years ago, Nicole and I were on a church hiatus for around 2 years, and it was wonderful. And then Brad came along and invited us to check out Nexus, which he was proud to say had finally started a childcare program, which intrigued us. We watched the previews, we checked out the trailers, read some reviews, and decided to give it a shot. We started attending as season 2 kicked off, and I remember Glenn asking me why I started attending Nexus. Good question. Without hesitation, I answered, it's my last stop, my last chance at this church thing. If this doesn't pan out, I'm not sure what will. Nexus, you're 10 years old. My, how you've grown. From the Crystal Ballroom to the Conrad Center to a YouTube channel to a farm. A natural progression, if you ask me. Nexus, you're 10 years old. You strange, beautiful mess of people about to enter your tweens. How have you made it this far? From the community garden to pub theology to boomerang groups and wine tours, all aboard. What about the creative talents of the Glimpses tour de force? Discussing mental health in church, using poetry and dance and painting and spoken word and music? Who does that? How have you made it this far, Nexus? Is it because parents can rest easy knowing that their kids are having fun about faith and science right next door at the museum? Or how Aaron and Sarah take their kids to distribute food to the homeless on King Street? Maybe it's Soup Sunday. I mean, that's always a hit. What about the music? Come on, I am slain by the talent of the music and the abilities at Nexus. Every Sunday morning, it feels like a concert. And I'm the wannabe fanboy trying to snag the set list. Nexus, you're 10 years old. This congested communal intersection of different lives, varied opinions, hopes, doubts, visions, kicking against pious platitudes, Christian cliches, an anti-bullshit approach to church. How have we made it this far? Now, I know what you're thinking. It's Kristen. It has to be. Who keeps it all together behind the scenes, the sounding board, the sound one, sustaining all things that are Brad Watson. Story after story, the message is loud and clear. Kristen seems to be doing the heavy lifting in their household. Now, I have to concede that's true in my home as well, but I digress. Brad Watson with his cockamamie ideas, his ruptured appendix, digestive issues, his deconstructionist approach to faith and scripture, his self-deprecating sense of humor, we've all come to love. But don't be fooled, Nexus. Underneath it all, under the facade, behind the mystery of that which is Brad Watson, is a person who is driven by a fierce love for this God-man Jesus. Between you and me, I think Brad's a Christian. Shh, don't tell anyone. He's all in. I honestly think that there's nowhere else for him to go. Just like Peter said to Jesus, you have the words of eternal life. We've already committed ourselves, confident that you are the Holy One of God. Brad's love of Jesus compels him to push past traditional boundaries, to not settle for the mundane. From bringing in a jar of urine to illustrate disgust and purity, to fearlessly addressing online porn, to shouting into a megaphone with Radiohead blaring in the background on a Christmas Sunday. He's committed to sharing the Jesus path in ways we can understand and follow today. The path is made in the walking of it. And Brad would emphasize, we do not walk this path alone, but together. Sometimes more stumbling than walking, but getting to carry each other. Sisters, brothers, together. Nexus, you're 10 years old. How have we made it this far? Together. My name is Rob. This is my last stop, my last chance at this church thing, and I think it's panning out. Here's to the next 10 years, Nexus.
Good morning. My name is Brian, and I'm here to share my thoughts of Nexus at 10. So, bear with me. I love lying on my back under a tree, especially when the breeze moves gently through the branches. The sound of the leaves rattling softly in the warm summer air is hypnotic. Even better, finding oneself under a tree in a park, getting to listen to people go about their lives. I'm lucky because I happen to live near a few parks with such trees. I found solace in a community such as Nexus to be very similar. Together over 10 years, we have grown and been woven together to make one community. Each leaf or branch is a person or a story, which is echoed as we share ourselves with one another. I have been lying under the canopy of Nexus's community for many years now, getting to know many of its members over time. I don't take it for granted how many unique lives lived belong to Nexus, how many stories exist in this community. Shared and expressed, a story told amongst us is similar to a leaf growing and rattling in the wind, and together this makes a symphony of a whole tree. I'm not sure how, or even better when, a group of people turn into a community or family. No doubt time and shared experience go a long way. And for me, Nexus has been an unexpected home where we have made roots and friendships. Brad's teachings have given me a better ability to give words to the wordless parts that stir within me. And Brad's stories, while being fun and thoughtful, also offer even more, a striking ability to give rise to the power of a story or a narrative. I really struggle to understand what God means to me, or if he, she, it even exists. But I do remember Brad saying something to me one time that has stuck in my mind. He said, I experienced life first as a story, and if there's a story, there is a storyteller. What Brad had said didn't exactly rock me off my chair at the moment, but these words have quietly stayed with me over the years. Much like sitting under a tree, this community, each and every individual, help inspire me, give me solace, provide me shade, and most importantly, give me a place to belong. Where there is a story, and here there are many, there is a storyteller. In this community, of which I am a part of, I can see God through each and every person, as if we were one giant jigsaw puzzle being put together. So I thank you for this. And I also thank you, Brad, for helping point my eyes in the right direction. I can think of no other person I would rather have lead us as we seek our common path in the coming years. Thank you.
Nexus is 10. That means I joined Nexus in my 20s, and now that I'm almost 40, well, I don't know where the time has gone. One of the first things I've enjoyed about Nexus is the boomerang groups. I enjoyed both hosting and going out, which was definitely a little easier before I had my kids. I enjoyed meeting people like Len, Murray, Warren, John Weiss, Katie, people who just assumed that I'd been around forever, but at the time we were just meeting each other for the first time and trying to make conversations that we hope were not too awkward. The kids program has been one of the things I've always been passionate about. I feel this has been a great place to get involved, and I've taken up the challenge working with the kids program since day one. I value the children of the church, and I want them to have an adult that they can look up to, both literally and spiritually. I still remember dropping off my first kid in the baby's room upstairs at the Walper. I'm pretty sure that's the farthest we had been from CR in that whole first year. My kids certainly have enjoyed Sunday mornings with Keshin, now Steph, as well as exploring the museum. I remember being so excited about starting a new church. I felt a sense of adventure and excitement. I enjoy seeking out those opportunities, and this certainly felt like that. Teaching in the round was my first Sunday experience at the Walper, and it was a little weird. Was the person across the room looking at me? Or just through Brad, or what? But it was something I learned to enjoy. It made me feel kind of cozy and a little bit homey, increasing the connections I made on a Sunday morning. Then I had my first kid and realized the importance of picking up kids early, so the volunteers didn't have to stay forever upstairs in that small little room full of babies, waiting for me to stop visiting. As a phys ed teacher, one of my favorite sermons was Brad's sex talk, where he talked about the importance of a sexual relationship that hopefully happens inside of marriage, but not always. I had to leave early for some reason, and left my dad and Christy to enjoy that sermon together. Haha, that certainly made an awkward ride home for them together. It also left Brad wondering if what he said offended me, and if that's why I left early. As Brad spoke about last Sunday, for me, the people at Nexus have made going through life a little more enjoyable. Raising my kids here has been great for both them and for me. I've met so many great people here, and I really like the weekly after-church catch-up conversations. It's been great to have a group of people that you can rely on and share life's ups and downs with. Thank you to all of you that make Nexus what it is today.
What do you want in a pastor? Someone pious, clean living, self-controlled, and in their right mind? Or a fleshy, carnal creature prone to waywardness and folly, cursing even as he drops his New Testament commentary on his duck-like feet, looking himself square in the eye, and as he stands there in his undershirt and boxers with his artistic hair, inviting us to also take a good look at ourselves as we follow after Jesus. Brad, you've managed to assemble an odd assortment of neurotic types here. But we're also the types that can tolerate hearing you tell us about how you defecated in the forest last week and left your underpants there, and how Kristen came to pick you up in the air-conditioned car with a water bottle to take you home. I've never been in a physical fight before, but I've always thought that if I were to ever fight, it would be against Brad. We're too grown up now, but if we were kids and it was recess and he started with his pesky ways, I know it would happen. I've always had these feelings toward Brad. They began the first time I experienced him start one of his kicks. He'd bought himself running shoes that were like gloves that you put on your feet. Each toe had its own covering, and it took him forever to put on these ridiculous things. As I'm getting this out, it's coming to me now. It's his proclivity, not for starting something and not finishing. We all do that, but it's the pompousness. He reads a book about how humans are supposed to run barefooted. So not only do you get the obnoxiousness of someone who's starting to jog, but he's jogging the way that God intended. Brad, you've started this thing off 10 years ago on the second floor of the Walper, talking about downtown and some concept called the third place that nobody understood. Each summer, you'd go to some mysterious caves in Montana or Utah for a number of weeks with a guy named Riley. You'd do some kind of sacred rituals, keep company with the ancestors. It was all very otherworldly. Then each September, you'd start the season off, casting a vision for the year, enticing us to come on Sunday so we could hear the sacred messages that you'd received amongst the caves. You'd come down from the mountain, as it were. I've always thought that it seemed pretty convenient to get out of watching the kids in the summer for 4 weeks. You know, you can convince us of almost anything, but Kristen, how did you pull that off? I'll be gone for 4 weeks in the summer, honey. It's a work thing. Brad's forever trying to draw us into his inspiration, something he'd received from a painting or an ancient story. Every once in a while, he shoots one of his theological arrows and misses the target so wildly that it hits some guy who's trying to pick up his dog's poo. That's what happened with the Pirate series. I remember getting the email asking for a reading on the topic of pirates, and I could hear myself saying, "That's it, I'm done. The topics are ridiculous. Some of us are trying to go to church here." The truth is, Brad has always been an easy guy for me to listen to, a very easy guy to know and to be friends with. I think of the years I spent squirming in the church service and the years going nowhere. The Sunday mornings wincing, bracing myself in the pew, tightening at the checked boxes, leaving agitated. But Brad, your words don't end up in those deep-rutted channels. They land with graciousness and trickle into the soil of our hearts. You feel around for the truth in the human experience, first as someone who lives within the contradictions himself, so that when you do give instruction, it's something that we can hear. In a world where I'm mostly bothered, listening to you relaxes me. Coming here keeps me tethered. Your words feel like they've been hewn and sanded. Your self-deprecation and humor, the way you speak, the way you tell a story, your intonation, your timing, the way you can capture what all of us feel but can't always name. It doesn't just happen. You whittle away at these messages through the week in and week out, except for summers and Christmases, weeks when the building's rented out, except during power outages and snowstorms and global pandemics. But each week, you help us articulate a vision for our lives, the type of people that we want to be. I can't tell you the number of times I've left after listening to you, having some hard place within me soften, some closed door at least unbolted. When Nexus started, life had fallen apart for me. Coming here was the only social thing I could manage in a week. It took all my strength. I wanted to get in and get out. I was a wreck of self-consciousness, but I needed to come and listen to the music and listen to you. It was a salve. We've been together these 10 years. Life's not always been kind, but I've been so much better off for having you as a friend. Nexus has kept my spiritual life afloat. One time you said you'd be hurt if I left Nexus, but the truth is, where would I go? You've created something unique, something many of us need. If you're driving the bus, we're getting on board. So may God bless you in your weekly tussle to churn out messages from the caves of your twisted mind.
Oh, Glenn, the caves of my twisted mind. Oh my goodness, Glenn, thank you for that. That was so, it was everything, funny and beautiful. Thank you for those kind words, and thank you to everyone who shared this morning. What an amazing way to celebrate 10 years. And I can't thank you all enough for the kindness you've shown me. And for these past 10 years, they have been just absolutely wonderful. I'm incredibly grateful. And so on into the second decade we go. But again, for this morning, thank you to everyone who's been along for the ride. since day one or who's just joined us in this fall. It's been wonderful getting to know so many of you and journeying together. And I just want to say thank you so much for these past 10 years. They have been truly a gift, and I'm looking forward to what's ahead. So thanks again. On to decade number 2. And so for this morning, go in peace.